So we actually have a variety of programs for the Esports Association. One is career readiness. So we actually work with the Career Center here to better prepare our association members to learn those life skills that they are going to need so that when they make that transition over to a career pathway.
Awesome, awesome. This guy, we gotta turn around. This guy wins almost every tournament we throw. I'm telling you. We gotta watch him live. He's gonna be something big. I'm telling
you. CSUDH Esports Association is centered in 4 domains: academics and research, community engagement, competition, and entertainment.
We're trying to make sure that the students are prepared for the future, that they understand the diversity that media offers now, and again, look beyond the traditional outlets.
They can gain fieldwork, partnerships, as well as potential job opportunities and in both the higher education and K-12 fields.
We believe that esports is a strategy and not an outcome. Our association is here to help anyone that is willing to learn how to take your gaming skills to the next level through a supporting community. If you are looking to showcase your production talents to help support our esports teams, then this is the association for you. We host online and on-site tournaments that will allow our members to showcase their competitive spirit. Our association broadcasts out our competition and practices to entertain our community as well as our global audience. We believe that by joining us, you will come out of the association feeling transformed and better prepared to transfer your skills into your career. Join today and begin to explore endless opportunities through our Esports Association here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us today to another edition of the Esports Talk session here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. Before I introduce our guests, I would like to just give a quick announcement, and that is to thank you all for tuning in. We cannot do this without you all. And so please keep in mind that we have various social media outlets there for you to follow, to like, to leave feedback. We thrive in any feedback that you can give us. All right, without any further ado, I am excited to introduce to you Maria and Rodrigo Damellini, who's with us today to talk about Gamersafer. And so welcome, Maria and Rodrigo.
Thank you.
Hi there, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'd like to just dive into it and just ask, how did your esports and gaming background journey begin?
Well, I think we are gamers first and foremost, and we are parents of gamers, and I think that's a good kickoff, right?
Yes.
But more than that, I was working with the gaming industry for some years,
Okay.
and Maria also jumped into gaming space, more aligned to how close this is to our families and as a gamer herself. So Maria, yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was a combination of several aspects of my experience, personal and professionally speaking. So I have a background in social impact. So I was working with programs targeting to improve society somehow. And since I moved to Silicon Valley a couple of years ago, I was investigating how technology could serve society in general, and more specifically because I was having many challenges and discussions at home about my kids experiencing digital spaces. I thought it was a good opportunity when Rodrigo came to me and, are you up to do this? You know, creating safer and fair play experience for players. And I said, wow, I'm totally into it. It's just part of who I am. So that's how everything connected.
How neat. So you guys both played games at your early stages. And this is prior to having kids, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And
Definitely we play I play much less now that I want it. Yeah.
Different games,
different
actually.
games.
Yeah, we play different games. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. You're going to have to name just a few, just some of the few nostalgic games.
Nostalgic ones. Well, Zelda in the past.
Zelda, nice.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Very cool.
so I was talking with Rodrigo the other day.
Uh-huh.
What is the name of the game of that fox, Rodrigo?
Star Fox.
Sonic. Sonic.
Oh, Sonic.
Yeah.
Not only Sonic, but the other one. Oh, I'm missing the name.
It played on the N64?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it Star Fox maybe?
Yeah, I think it's a Star Fox. It will probably come in the following minutes.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
were talking about this the other day because they kind of relaunched a new version of it recently. And I was kind of, oh my God, I need to try it. I was so into it. And it's curious because we're talking about this because my mom and my dad didn't see myself as a gamer, but my brother only.
Okay.
And when we were discussing, because I made this video 2 days ago, and
Mhm.
my mom said, Maria, I realized that you are a gamer, but I never treated you as a gamer. And I said, well, mom, I think I myself realized, I think 3 years ago, that I am a gamer because, we create all these images and stereotypes in our heads. And sometimes we don't recognize ourselves as gamers, especially female players, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been a great, space for me to dive in and to talk because I'm also revealing many things about my own journey as a gamer in this process.
How cool. I mean, yeah, that's so true. I mean, if you're in that space, that headspace of seeing something, as a game, right? How is that we get through some of the difficult tasks that we get through, if not for a game?
Yeah.
It just helps ease the mind a little bit too, especially if it's something very difficult. But yeah, I could totally relate to that. Absolutely. And I also, when it comes to, revamped games or, these nostalgic games that are coming with another iteration, like you just get excited. That's what just gravitates, and you're thinking, okay, I don't have as much time as I used to, but man,
But
I'm going to make some special time to relive childhood just a little bit.
well, now I don't have much time to play it, so the time is really precious. So yeah,
Yes,
you have
yes.
to cherry pick. Okay, where I will invest this time, and that's why having positive experiences is so important within gaming. Because yes,
Yeah,
some people are really putting their special moments back to gaming, and we need to
yeah.
make sure that is a great experience, no matter if you're a grown-up guy or just a youth player, right?
Yeah. Oh, so the game name is Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, yes. Oh my
Yeah, I was
gosh.
typing. Oh
Yes.
my goodness, how can I forget?
Okay, yes. That's so true. Gosh, yeah, that is a very anticipated game. I can tell you right now. There's big communities in the Crash Bandicoot scene. Absolutely. I think that was the game that, for me, that caused me to break down and definitely get a PlayStation, because of that game. But yeah, how cool. Yeah, I'm excited. It's just a great time to again, when they revamp these games, it just gets us into that nostalgic space all over again.
Yeah.
Well, I like what you just said a moment ago, Rodrigo. It's
Hmm.
even so important now. Like, you have this great game, people go to the game to actually have a good experience. I don't think the intention is to play a game to have a negative one.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how Gamersafer really came about.
Hmm.
Aside from, hey, we noticed, what was that one thing that really just caused, hey, you
Hmm.
know what, we got to do something, as opposed to
Yeah.
sitting on the sidelines?
Well, I think that we agree with the fact that games are the place that people go to have fun, to learn, and more than ever to socialize, right? And the vast majority of experience are pretty positive and interesting, and we know many factors around it. But as every single social interactions, yes, we have some challenges, and we got to learn more about the challenge around gaming with my background, right? So I was a senior executive at Intel inside the gaming business unit. And over there, we were always researching which were the growth constraints of online gaming. And through research, we got to learn how impactful bad experiences are within those environments and the diversity of challenge that we have. So we were seeing things like bullying, harassment, hate speech, sexism, racism, identity theft, scams, bots, fake accounts, duplicated accounts, some instances, groomers, predators. So yes, many terrible things around it. And as an industry, we were always trying to figure out ways of eradicating or minimizing this kind of things. And I think uh, this really rings the bells very close to us because yes, we were there playing, so we know the gaming dynamics. We know these kind of things might happen, right? We interact with other people out there, and we saw situations that were not ideal sometimes. But being backed up by the data and seeing the industry being more and more concerned about that, we start thinking, okay, um, what can we do about it, right? And then Maria did a pretty good question back to me a while ago. So what can we do in order to prevent the problem to happen in the first place? And that's the origin of a Gamersafer. So this concept of a prevention of those problems. And then we came up with an idea on a technical solution to enable such approach. So as an industry, we see a lot of efforts trying to mitigate those damages and those bad interactions. And we are just trying to come up with an additional piece of the puzzle, look into the prevention side of it.
Right. Well, gosh, you encapsulated so well what Gamersafer is about and its core. And Maria, please share, like, also from your experience and perhaps even from the gamer side of things or just from the outside observer. Especially, you mentioned too, being a woman in gaming isn't necessarily as easy as we'd like it to be. What is it that you see that really drives the charge to promote gamer safer in spaces like this?
Yeah, so one of the things that we all want when we are joining digital spaces, as we want in real life, we want to join those spaces being who we are. So our identities, the things that we believe we are special about it, the things we are. So I am Latina, I am a mom, I am a female. So those things are important to me, and I want to be, all those identities when I'm playing or when I'm interacting online. So that was the biggest motivation. Can I be myself in every single game and not being judged or not being harassed or not being bullied because of those characteristics that I value so much? And then talking with other female players and other players in general, because usually we think that harassment, for example, affects only female players, but it's not true. So there was a report last year saying that 74% of players experience harassment in the most popular online games. And in that research, female players and male players were affected. Female players a little more, but they were all affected. Right. So the biggest motivation is how can we build those spaces where we can be who we are and not being afraid, or where we can compete and progress in a game without fear, of being somehow affected by the way others are behaving towards you. And as a mother of a gamer, my daughter, she's 14. That's the kind of world that I want to create for her as well. So sometimes she wants to play some of the most competitive games, but she's kind of, I don't know, because someone said that, right. This community is that, this and that. So we are kind of building this space for her as well. And my older, when we had all this, discussions about racism and harassment, even all these movements that are going on, he said, Mom, it's really hard because sometimes based on your accent, people behave in a bad way, and this is shouldn't be something that should affect our experience as player. And I sometimes don't know what to do because I'm not the one making those comments, but I'm there. And sometimes if we react, things can escalate and
Right.
get even worse. So all those nuances, I think, are indicators that we could do much more, to support, players and also platforms, because from the platform side, they're also trying to moderate those communities. And
Hmm.
it's hard work because there are so many billions of interactions happening in real time. It's super
Right.
challenge to manage. And when you have people that are from different cultures, of if they know each other in real life, it's totally different when you
Right.
are interacting with someone that you never met before. So there are all these nuances that make this a challenge for them as well. So it was just a great combination of all those elements. And
Right.
the way we are envisioning what we do, uh, we're we're seeing ourselves as facilitators in this process, connecting like what players are looking for, and also platforms in a very powerful way, in
Yeah.
a sense that enabling more positive, safer, and fair player experiences, what both ends wants, players and
Right.
platforms. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely hear that, and it's something too that just again, and it's there. The awareness piece of, if we had to compare, for example, not many sports, and I'll say traditional sports for a moment
Mhm.
to compare it, has sports that essentially bridges like certain players to be in a team that are coming from different backgrounds, meaning and I think of soccer, for example. Yes, you have a club team, and then you think of, okay, all of these players come from different backgrounds. Some of them don't have that same primary language in English or in Spanish or whatever it is that they're in. And very similar to esports, it's open to the world, that if you knew a little bit of the profile of the player before coming in, so that you have a little bit of an expectation and not be daunted,
Mhm.
that, oh, well, here we all are, and we're all trying to compete for the same objective, which should be a universal language. These are the objectives of the game. Essentially, you're trying to accomplish one or two, three goals.
Yep.
And it gives us that opportunity, because that's power in itself. When, if a team is working where they don't even speak the same language but are able to accomplish a goal together, that's pretty powerful. But if we are bombarded with already dealing with the surface level issues like toxicity, judgment, racism, things of that nature, what was mentioned, then we don't get to those spaces to actually be able to say, hey, esports has that specialized vehicle that can lead us there,
Yep.
um, in a very big way, especially in a digital age that we're in. And again, I can't compare it, like, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm just drawing a blank, but anybody on chat can correct me if I'm wrong. Any traditional sport that does that in a way that esports has a vehicle and engine, and from what I hear at Gamersafer is trying to do, is essentially allow that space to happen,
Mhm.
to be that conduit of, hey, let's make that connection so that we can actually eliminate that first layer, get us to a space that we can all marvelize and just witness, wow, everybody that is in this team come from different backgrounds, different primary languages, and are able to conquer this game, or win a championship or win a tournament or a match, without knowing anyone's common or native language or tongue. So that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
um,
I think there is two specific angles there that
yeah.
is relevant for us to say whenever we discuss esports side, right? So of course, toxicity is a real challenge on a social interaction layer.
Yes.
And whenever we discuss the traditional sports, these kind of things doesn't really happen at the large scale because most of those experiences are in person between people that somehow has a real life connection.
Right.
And on top of that, you have a certain level of accountability, right? Because if during a regular soccer match, as you just mentioned, someone just misbehave or say something wrong or do something that's not appropriate. The idea is, yes, you have rules, and this person will be punished, and they just cannot walk away from this misbehavior, right?
Right.
Um, Whenever we discuss this environment within esports or online tournaments where people don't see each other, and
Mhm.
it's super hard sometimes to monitor this kind of interactions, that's the lack of accountability sometimes let people a little bit more free to misbehave, and this is one of the angles that we help to prevent. So we're just trying to bring back a little bit more accountability to competitive scene with our technology, and on top of that, making sure that we are keeping a fair play as well, uh, uh, not only removing toxicity, but also keeping it fair in the sense that fraudsters won't have a free space to play anymore, right? Because we
Right.
know that as soon as the competitive elements start to pop up, people feel more compelled to
Mhm.
cheat, for example, right? And yes, this can really destroy a competition and can compromise the effort of many other players if someone is cheating, right?
Right.
So all those other elements is something that we also bring to the equation. So make sure that we increase in accountability of regular players, and whoever is really trying to misbehave and break the rules and try to take a advantage of exploiting the system somehow, to take sometimes even financial advantage, right? So
Mhm.
people are competing for money on esports, people are competing for scholarships,
Yeah.
right?
Prestige.
So
Yeah. Mhm.
it's not only recreational sometimes. Of course, even on recreational, it's not cool when
Right.
somebody
Mhm.
shits, right?
Yeah.
Cheats. But yes, there are a lot of things on stake on esports, and people that takes that very serious as a profession, right? So we really want to make sure that this is a fair play, and of course a positive one. So that's the combination of the two elements.
No, no, excellent. Thank you, Rodrigo, for bringing that into fold. Absolutely. The accountability aspect is so key, what you just mentioned earlier, especially in the digital space. And again, that human psychology of, hey, this is now a competition. Now there are more eyes, right? There are more risk of failing if I fail or if we lose. And that's part of the growth mindset of trying to understand that, hey, this is a game and there will be two sides to this, and the best that you could possibly do is just put your best foot forward and just showcase what you've learned. But unfortunately, there is too much risk at that too, to count on that every single time. But that's a lot of the discipline that goes into forming a team, and at the same time, you just never know, just because of the nature of the matter, or sometimes the pressure that leads up to that, that compels people to possibly look other ways, right?
Yeah.
In competition. But please share a little bit more, like, and Marie, you touched on this a little bit, like with other parents too, that you've talked with. What has been the most concerning for them, if whether or not they want to allow their child to enter into a space like esports?
Yeah, so I was thinking while we were talking, I was thinking that we kind of have now a role as ambassadors for
Mm-hmm.
esports
Mm-hmm.
in this parent relationship, because at the same time we're like working on this technology to bring more fair play and positive experience, we're also telling parents the positive aspects of gaming, of games, because they're super scared. And when you are scared of something, there is no space for conversation, there is no space
Mm-hmm.
for testing, there is no space for engagement. So one of the things that I kind of combine is like hearing their questions, their fears, the things they are concerned about, which is usually around violence, addiction, which is a pretty controversial topic, and also about competing, and then clarify those questions, explain that sports, for example, is about community, is about leadership, is about learning new skills, because some parents that are not familiar with this space, they create all these monsters in their heads, and like the real world, right? There are
Yeah,
some
yeah.
good things and bad things, mostly depend on us, mostly depends on the guidance that you have. So engagement is a word that I never stop saying,
Okay.
because games are one of the most important topics that allows me to connect with my kids, because they're super excited and happy to talk about the games they love, how they're playing, how they're progressing. And
Right.
these days, especially when they're growing, uh, sometimes you don't have as many things to talk about. So
Right.
it's a fantastic way to engage in their work.
Right.
And
Right.
at the same time, I always say that, as everything in life, it needs guidance and supervision. So
Mm,
they're kind of exercising some muscles when they're playing. So we need to talk about conversations with people that you don't know in person, or how can you manage your reactions when you are frustrated,
right.
things like that. So
Yeah.
if we leave like kids to develop those skills, they will probably not necessarily handle those things nicely. So that's when we come and then we help them to develop those skills, to exercise some digital uh, um, resilience, digital citizenship, all those
Right.
layers. And I think what we need is a combination of parents and schools teaching those digital skills that the world now requires, because our kids are spending many hours online, and those skills are super important to help them to progress in their lives, to develop, to create connections. And there are so many learning opportunities for them and for us, and if we can do that together, I think
Yeah.
it's where the beauty happens.
Yeah.
It's really eye-opening, just adding to Maria's point, right?
Mhm.
Whenever we are talking with parents and when you start to position gaming as a tool for them to engage with their kids, right?
Yeah.
And yes, we discussed this with many parents already, and shortly after they could just come back and say, yes, it worked out, right? Because it's a moment that they are really enjoying them doing something they really love. Kids love their parents. They love to engage with their parents, and they learn to teach their parents about what's the game dynamics, and seeing the parents sitting besides them and just watching their gameplay, just like happens with traditional sports, right? So every single kid plays differently whenever the parents are there cheering for them, right? So yes, you have every day an opportunity to cheer for your children whenever they are playing, to engage, to talk with them, to have some fun, and of course it's a good moment to discuss things to yes. And we saw so many great examples of that, and I think it's really powerful.
No, thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. And I would just say this: not every child grows up with awesome parents like yourselves, right? Like, hey, my parents are gamers too. They know some of the hit games that I know today.
And the problem that our kids beats us already. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, I am the one that have to manage my frustrations when I'm playing with them.
There you go. Just don't put any wager on it, right? Like
No,
if you're
no,
gonna wager
definitely
on
not.
chores or
Yeah.
something,
And they love to talk about that.
right? I can beat my mom and dad,
Yeah.
on I don't know a
And
particular
Oh,
game.
pretty,
I avoid those kinds of interactions many times.
Oh my goodness. But something that you said right there, both of you guys touched on it, and that is, if you think about traditional sports, right, you think about parents that want to support their kids, that take them to the practices, take are there for the games, that are even dressing up to show the spirit of the team and rooting for them, right? That you could do the same thing in esports. And that correlation too is, the more we can draw that picture
yeah.
to show what an esports parent looks like, right, to support their child in those spaces, it starts creating this, like, hey, there's some overlap here where the community grows, because without the parent support, you know, you can only go so high. You know, you can only get to a certain space without that community. And again, everyone has different circumstances, but it just goes to show that the more you get to talk and dialogue in something that you're interested in, you start bridging other communities to come into a space that essentially can see what it is that you know, the student or the child or the young adult or what have you is into. um, and again, it's this goes for, this is what I love about esports. You can pick it up at any time. It's never too late.
Yeah.
And yeah, and to see what's new and different from even just prior gaming, right? And see what the nuances are to today. And from a developer standpoint, I'm sure it amazes just to see, you know, how much time and effort it's taken to get to a space where we can all connect online and experience the same experience over and over again, which allows anybody to enhance their skills. But yeah, I mean, I think that's very powerful what you said earlier. And again, being able to have those conversations, I would even say it goes two ways. The child, in essence, you know, should share with parents like, hey, I'm into this game. I want to share with you what I do. And esports brings that level of structure, if you will, so that it doesn't get looked at as what typical parents would say if, oh, well, my child is isolating themselves, you know,
And at the
or
same time, they're learning to have those conversations as well. So
right.
I remember myself, I think 3 years ago, writing some of the questions that I could ask when I was talking with my son, because sometimes we didn't have much to talk about it. I remember thinking before, and then if I didn't have, you know, that many diversity of questions, he kept saying yes, replying yes or no, and then we were not, you know, having further conversations about things that
Yeah.
I consider important, and also because I want to learn more about him, right?
Right.
So when we're thinking about like engagement, it's always important to be open and make those questions, not come with statements, which is something that we parents most of the times we do. Like we came with all these ideas about things,
That's so
and that
key.
kind of eliminates the space for having those conversations. So
Right.
they're kind of learning how to engage with us as well, and it's not easy many times for them to reply back, to share about their words. So it's an
And
exercise.
I think we had a great personal example. Before COVID, we were invited to grown-ups dinner, right? And
Absolutely.
we were there without kids. And this couple, they have a teenager at
Fortnite
home,
player.
a Fortnite player, and
Okay.
he's a fairly shy boy. We probably never heard anything different from him that hello and goodbye, right?
Okay.
But when we arrived there, somehow he learned about what we were doing, and he stick around and he kept talking with us for
Wow.
almost 4 hours. His mom basically kicked him off, said, "Get out!" Right? This is grown up stuff. And when he left, the parents looked back to us and say, "What just
What
happened?" Right?
happened?
That's
Wow.
not my
Yeah.
son.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually your son. It's just a topic, right? So yes, it's
Right.
a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, I love that you share that too, because you're right. You know, it's, you know, it's meeting them in the middle, right? Where you said engagement, like their interest is what engages them, right? It's so you're taking that step forward, not like you said earlier, Maria, not to make statements, but to come with like questions to understand more and to keep walking towards the middle, which is where the student or the child is as far as their interest, and to even share some light of even experiences that they are going through, because again, you know, it's a whole different generation, and than what we experience today ourselves. But yeah, just knowing some of those potential areas that things could go wrong, that just takes away from the level of what it is that somebody likes to do or loves to do even, is so key. That's where the community, in essence, is able to fit into that space and add and elevate the ecosystem of esports so that it stays at its core, so that people can feel really that power and that magic that esports can present. to a child's life and to others too. But yeah, that's very interesting that you mentioned that, especially to the shyest of people. If you touch on a subject that they like, they won't let you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and we
and
were
I think
kind
there's
of, we are getting this your user perspective, and he
Yeah.
felt so important that he was sharing his perspective as a user, as a player.
Mm,
So he
right,
kind of
right.
embraced it.
and I think there's a very important point, right?
Yep.
Think about it. If a child or a teenager doesn't really feel comfortable to share the great things about gaming, the great
Mm,
things about his experience and so on, what are the chances of this individual to come back to their parents whenever something goes wrong,
right,
right? When
right,
if is happening some kind of bullying scenario or some kind of situation that was not right and he need guidance, right?
right.
If he's not open to share the great things, less likely he'll look back to their parents whenever something sounds awkward or weird or
Right.
scary, right? And that's super concerning, right? So having
Absolutely.
this open door is important, no matter the subject. And even when the things are great and they are having fun, if they don't feel comfortable talking about it, is less likely they will share something bad.
I think you said it perfectly right there. And there's a level of, you know, being genuine, right? If you are being genuine, you know, to kids, you know, kids will see that, you know, kids are not naive.
Yeah.
You know, some of these kids, I mean, gosh, they're all brilliant. And especially they want to see if you're taking those steps that are necessary to just open up that trust door a little bit so that they're able to share. And like you said, Maria, earlier, it's you come in because you want to have a relationship with your child, and I'm sure parents all over the world would want that. It's what are we doing to get us into those spaces, but not to, you know, there's that level of being careful of don't come across fake, right? Don't feel like you're reading a script.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, you have to come at it an approach that, you know, shows effort. And I think people can respect if there's effort shown. But yeah, it's that level that it takes to get to those middle ground spaces. And then again, you get a great user perspective. On top of that, you get that relationship that we're trying to build so that the community and its large, the parents, the people that support the actual players, whether it's parents or non-parents, um, can are able to have, you know, a support system built in. So even when levels of toxicity do happen, you know, that's the sad thing, is that we have to tell them, hey, levels of that will exist, but here's what we're trying to do to make it better, and we're grateful to do that because we're getting your perspective, we're
Yeah.
getting a chance to see it through
And
your
also
lens.
there are roles on that, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you see something, you you have to speak up, and
Yes, big time.
we are not cultivating that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are many different things,
Nuances, right? Yeah.
yeah, that we should do as parents, because considering that they're spending more and more time online,
Mhm.
it's where their citizenship is basically happening.
Right. Right. Yeah. If you ask me, gosh, years ago when I was in school and we were, you know, going on the, you know, on the web, digital citizenship wasn't something we talked about. It didn't
At all.
exist, you know, and so now I know in some schools, in some places, it's being taught. And it just goes to show, like, even if you read like what employers are looking at too in the future, they want to know if somebody's conducting themselves in a very digital appropriate space,
Hmm.
because it's all attached. It's your identity, right? It's who you are in some cases. But yeah, that dialogue doesn't happen unless, you know, we have those conversations with, like you said, parents starting with their kids, and at the same time building genuine interest in what it is that they like to do, so that it feels a bit more comfortable and, you know, flowing of a conversation, as opposed to feeling super scripted and you know, forceful. um,
And other things that we're like working on to support that is finding role models. So they
mm,
need to see those players that are progressing and that are modeling their behavior as well. And that's, I think, how important is to have more accountability and to promote more for player experience, because they're inspiring themselves in other players. I remember like many parents asking me, Maria, I can't understand how they can stay 3 hours watching someone else to play. This is insane. And following the same analogy you were talking, like, wow, don't you like to see your favorite basketball team playing? It's the same thing. So those role models also are supporting this kind of conversation and this kinds of, behaviors that we're building inside online platforms, and we are encouraging that as well.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I like how I hear a constant theme of making the connections that have been connected and seeing how it's tied in the esports space, because I think, there's a little bit of new wiring that needs to be done, especially and for the world of parents, it never stops, right? It's hard work. Yes, absolutely. Let's see if we could take a moment. I definitely want to take a look at chat right now. I saw the activity and I want to get to any questions. So chat, feel free to ask any questions. Let's see here. Yes, let's see. One question. Some parents, I'm just going to read this. Some parents might be afraid to ask their kids to teach them things. Might be a good approach for some of them to ask more questions so they can have those genuine conversations about deeper topics of gaming. Thank you for that statement there, because that is something I can see easily happening with parents having a little bit of a, hey, I don't know where my first introduction should be into gaming. Do I need to know a history lesson behind it? Do I need to also myself play the game to understand? Or what is it that you would say to a parent that is completely new, never played games growing up, and they have a child that is into gaming, but probably not aware of all the the background that comes into gaming, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
I think a legit interest is the first step, right? And come to the conversation again without the statements and the prejudices and whatever, right? So if you don't understand the gaming dynamics, if you don't understand the game itself or what's going on, just sit beside your kids and remove the judgmental element of a parent from the script. They say, okay, what you're playing, why do you like it, what you're doing, and you see just
how does it work?
How does it works? Well, I don't understand, and and of course, if you got into genuinely and you want to play a little bit, yeah, for sure they will be more than glad to teach you, right? So I think it's step by step and should be legit. It's not like, okay, over suddenly I'm a gamer parent, right?
Yeah. And sometimes I guess kids are afraid that their parents are trying to understand, to like somehow control what they're doing. So it's important to let them know why you want to do it. Why you want to know, why you are there. So I'm here because you care so much about this. And I wanna understand. I want to be part of it.
Right.
So that's an important thing. And another thing that just like I was thinking about all the strategies, because I have so many parents asking me questions these days. And there is no one size fits all. That's an important thing. Every family is different, and you have to figure out what works best for your family. But one of the things that really helps is having a community that is discussing the same thing. So what are the other parents that you have in your network that you can exchange and talk about things? Just remember that their experience probably won't serve you, but it's nice to have more people to talk about it. So finding a community to support and to guide those conversations, to inspire you, identify your parent style, because there are some parents that are more controllers, there are some parents that are more participatory. So identify, because if you go against your personality, the way your parents style,
kids will take
things will go south probably.
That's right. And another question just surfaced right now, and thank you so much for the questions. Do you think that gaming has a hurdle to overcome just because they're called games? It seems they can be so much more these days, and that the label is holding people or parents back from getting involved. Is there a different label that would be better than game? That's a great question.
That's a great
Well,
question.
yeah, I don't know what label would we use, right? I think what we really have to acknowledge is, yes, gaming is evolving in a very dynamic pace. So our understanding of gaming 10 years ago is completely different from today.
Right.
So yes, nowadays, and it varies based on the game genre and title, right? Some
Right.
games out there are more close to social media than game itself,
Mm,
right? So
right.
it's a social media with gamification elements sometimes, so I think the how we call it sometimes can bring some kind of expectations, but by the end of the day, we just have to acknowledge this, no matter how you call it, right? This
Right. Right.
is part of the this and let's be very open. We are uh, putting all the perspectives of the conversations around the youth players, right? But
Right.
gaming is present in 2.5 billion people's lives.
Yeah.
And they are not only, so if you see the average age of gamers in the world, believe me, are not youth, right? It's much higher than that.
Yeah.
Of course, many older people like us sometimes don't acknowledge themselves as a gamers, but many of them are. If you are really spending some a part of your time playing any sort of game, right, you are a gamer, right?
Right.
If you're investing time, some entertainment time on that, you're a gamer as well. So uh, the title is broad because the user base is broad. Like a 1/3 of
Right.
the population in the world play games.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it makes me think too of a question I remember just asking people, just show of hands, if you like to play games, right? And I just leave it very broad that way. And, you know, you'll see almost everybody raise their hand, you know, and I kind of make light of it. If you don't play games, you just, what do you do for fun? You know,
Yeah.
and I'd like to know, because maybe there's something that we're missing. But you know, games, you know, for those, you know, I ask even now specific questions like, do you play board games? Do you play, you know, a certain particular sport of a game? Do you play esports? Do you play, you know, a video game title that contributes to esports, or do you play a video game that is just, you know,
Like casual gaming.
individual, casual?
Hmm.
And then that's where you see the hands start to change, right? And that's where you see, okay, there's some element of people understand games, or at least played a game in their life at least once. Whether they like the experience or not, that really does determine whether or not they're going to come back to the game.
Hmm.
Um, and
And
yeah.
that's an excellent segue because the same research that Maria mentioned before about the level of harassment, right? Showing
Mm,
that 74% of players experience some sort of harassment within online games.
right, right,
The same report was telling that 23% of players that went through these bad experiences are
mm,
playing less or leaving the games. So
right,
as you mentioned, right? So your early experiences within a new game or a new platform will really determine your future on it. That's why it's so important for us to fight in a prevention with the preventive mindset, because we make sure that yes, maybe we are losing some talents on this esports path
right,
because when they are only in this recreational or grassroots level, he or she didn't have a good experience and didn't progress towards the uh, semi-pro to the pro level, right? So
right,
yeah,
right.
we probably might lose several great talents in the path because right at beginning nobody really cared about the positive experience for them.
No, absolutely right. And Rodrigo, I'll even share too, like, again, so crucial to build a positive community, because that community will be there when you're down. You know,
Yep.
when you're down, especially in a, whether it was a competitive or casual, or the experience did not go as planned or didn't go well, who do you fall back on? And when you're by yourself, you know, you really feel it hard, right? And when you have a community that's there to catch you or to support you, to lift you up, it's again, so critical to build that. But if we're not focusing on a community as you're playing the game, then those are the misses that end up happening, those results.
Yep.
And for publishers too, to know that, hey, you know, we're created this, we invested so much time so that we can give the user what it is that they want. and giving them the anticipation and the build up to say, finally, we got here, that we get to engage with our community. What you don't want, of course, is to have what occurs in that in-between space of deteriorating people to not want to go play that game, or just stopping, permanently at that point. Excellent. So you guys, I can't believe how time flies. This has been awesome, just chatting with you both. But this is the part where I ask, if you don't mind, some words of wisdom to take our community home with, and to think about.
Wow. That's
Wow.
I know Maria's thinking, gosh, I have so many.
I have so many. Yes. Where should I start?
I know where she's.
Well, I think I was talking in the beginning about all these identities that I have. And I think the most important thing is don't let people out there determine your success in whatever you want to do. So if you want to be a professional player, or if you want to, start a company like myself, or whatever, just be confident in what you're doing, and find your purpose and your passion, and the things will work out.
Absolutely. Thank
I
you,
think
Maria.
I would like just to add that whenever we talk about gaming, right? Mainly for parents out there, yeah, maybe your kid's not good enough to become a pro player, this top 1% that makes millions of dollars. But I'm on the gaming industry for so many years, and most people that I interact with, like as senior executives, they are not good players at all. They're just people passionate about gaming.
Right.
So within this industry is super rich, is growing more and more. Right, it's bigger than Hollywood, bigger than the audio industry. With a lot of opportunities to grow professionally and personally.
Yeah.
So yes, there are great things around gaming out there, and even if your kids doesn't play pretty well, right? So keep the mind open. I think, and if you had the chance, experience that. For sure, there are some sort of games out there that fits you for sure, right?
Yeah, there
So
are so many.
just
That's
give it a
true.
try, and maybe we are growing also the parents of the story, and we can make like a more esports for masters, right? So older guys like
Right,
us too, so we can compete as well, because we don't have a chance to playing with them. So that's definitely something that we need to put together.
I love it. I love that idea. I'll be right there spearheading it with you both. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Rodrigo, Maria. You guys have been a pleasure. Gamersafer, everyone. And we'll have your information too, so that anybody can find it. Thank you all for tuning in, and for those who watch it later on, feel free to follow us, and please give Maria and Rodrigo a holler as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
So we actually have a variety of programs for the